Conker's Bad Fur Day was released in 2001 to an absolutely insane level of critical acclaim. Generally I see people agree with the old reviews, but I don't think I've ever actually liked this one much at all. Don't get me wrong, Banjo-Kazooie is my favorite game of all time, and most of the other Rare games around that time are fantastic. But Conker just seemed to be gross for the sake of it, and a lot of the platforming just didn't seem to work. But with the release of Rare Replay, everyone can go back and take a look at this one again. I don't have an Xbone, so I'll be playing the original N64 version to see how this one holds up. In my experience, if it has this message, it isn't particularly mature. The character animation is really good in this game, especially for the N64. Everyone's movements make sense and flow into each other. Small gestures are as clear as day. They all even have different facial expressions. It's obvious the animators were really pushing the hardware here, and I like it.
Marvelous.
After picking a file, the game begins with a reference to the ultimate work of fiction for people who like to think they're edgier than they actually are, A Clockwork Orange, hinting at a game full of ultra-violence, so that should be fun. Another neat thing to note about the game is that it's fully voice acted. In fact, most of the dialogue is spoken rather than written on screen. In fact, there's a lot of ad-lib lines as well. But as Conker explains, this is really a scene from the end of our story. The real start to the story begins with our hero's girlfriend, Barry, taking a call from him from a bar. He's trying to buy more time to hang out with his friends, but, she's too busy to notice in the first place, so after a bit more partying...
Whose round is it? Yours! What, again?
He pukes on a cultist and stumbles out into the night. After a bit more wandering, we have a look at the antagonist of our adventure, the fabled Panther King. His table is broken and he's none too happy about it. Anyway, back to Conker. He's got a really bad hangover, so we need to fix that one first. Now we have control of him for the very first time and it's really not very fun, but hey, he's hungover, drunk, whatever, I don't really care. Let's go over to the Scarecrow and see what happens.
What's that? Hey.
This is Birdie the Scarecrow. He pretty much is the one who's going to give us our tutorial on contact-sensitive pads. Using the pad in front of him, we give him another beer.
Oh.
I don't mind if I do.
Or some helium.
Really nice helium.
Or another beer.
Don't mind if I do.
But using that information, we can go over to this other pad and...
Oh, just what I needed. In fact, it would seem to me that these give me just what I need at that moment in time.
Alright, let's continue. Oh man, once Conker gets some speed, he's even somehow less fun to control. He steers around on a wide berth like a boat, so quick turns are slippery, or uncertain, or just plain slow. Conker's shadow also doesn't seem to be where I want it to be. I can't tell where it's going to land, and that's a really quick way to fall and die. It's really frustrating, especially since there's so much careful platforming you actually have to do. After learning how to knock out and grab sentient collectibles and a dumb little sequence with a gargoyle and some dynamite, which are sadly less related than they need to be, we've made it through the door and we see another cutscene. Looks like the Panther King's German weasel scientist is trying to fix the table. It apparently takes the eyes of a brilliant scientist to see that the table has 3 legs, and then he floats out of the room. Actually, when he gets back to his office, his rant here is pretty funny.
Duct tape? I'll get him a duct tape, asshole. I'll come down here, I'll show him what the duct tape is, I'll show him where to stuff it. Stupid all I do all day is trying to sort his stupid problems out of the asshole. I hate that. Anyway.
Oh, and it turns out he made our health pickups. That's kind of cool. I like it when games give, like, contextual, story-wise reasons for things in the game. Alright, now that that cutscene is over, we have a sad bee, but we need to follow the signs to get her hive back.
Let's go get him.
Yeah, let's get him.
After being chased down, it turns out the hive is a gun. Huh.
Eat that, mother buzzer.
Good one, Conker. According to behind-the-scenes footage of the game, this is the defining moment of the game. Over-the-top violence. We also learn here that the biggest main collectible is cold hard cash, usually about $100 at a time. You only ever spend it once or twice, so it's really more like a progress report, and even the times you do spend it, you tend to get it back immediately. After all this, let's go to the next area. Oh, hey, Birdie's back, and he's giving us a manual. Oh, I see. A lot of these later tutorials are just a bunch of text dumps that you can't skip. So you have to wait for Conker to read the whole thing, and then he'll ask you if you've actually got all of it, and he has to finish the question before you can answer. It seems like a lot of the stuff is just to make the game a little bit longer, but that's probably just a sign of the times.
Alright, who's this?
Looks like one of them squirrels.
Look him get down there, kick the shit out of him.
Alright, well, wait till he comes up here, alright.
Okay then, yeah.
Shoot the beetles that want to kick the shit out of you and move on. Meanwhile, Professor Weasel is doing complex math to figure out what's wrong with the table. We also learn that he's creating something called teddies. That should come up later. Alright, the first stop on our adventure is the farm chapter, Barn Boys. Time to solve some proper puzzles. Let's see what's up with these metal boxes over here.
I say, little fella, you better get this fat-ass bitch off of my back pronto.
Well, Foghorn Leghorn wants us to get this fine lady off of him by getting rid of this rat thing she's hiding from. Time to feed this mouse 3 pieces of cheese and... Sure. Well, oh, yeah. She's okay now, so I guess we should just keep going. This is where we start to see my main issues with the game. Like I said, there's a lot of precision platforming and the controls are pretty bad, and I honestly wasn't expecting to be this high up on level 1. Were they aware that Conker just couldn't stop running sometimes? All that does is make it way easy to...
Conker! Yes, you boy! You're dead! You are dead! Deader than
I can't be asked for this bloody ridiculous contraption. Whose idea was this anyway?
Meet Greg.
Right.
Greg is our Grim Reaper. Whenever we die, he'll be there to grab us up and put us right back down in the world. See, Conker's a squirrel, so according to the rules,
Squirrels can have as many lives as they think they can get away with.
as long as you're grabbing up those lucky squirrel tails, you'll be fine. I like Greg as a character. He has a purpose, motivations, and plenty of good jokes about video game death. He's really one of the only jokes in the game that doesn't seem to fall flat over time. Back in the world of the living. We need to go inside the barn and there's a pitchfork, paint can, and a paintbrush. They all want to kick our ass for some reason. Time to use the attacks of the pitchfork to kill the hay bales for some reason. Killing the hay bales in here, the pitchfork's goony friends tell him to kill himself. He tries, but he doesn't have the physical necessities to actually die of hanging like that, so now he's just up there.
Oh, diddle die damn! I was gonna be up here for some time.
Well, now that we've freed the king bee, we should see what he's doing. And of course, this giant hay bale totally shouldn't be bothering us at all. Then you go outside and help a king bee get laid. See, he's trying to cheat on his wife with a sunflower with massive breasts. Unfortunately, she's hiding herself. And she's fucking terrifying, but she's ticklish. Time to find some tickle bees who will tickle the sunflower to expose herself, which is disgusting. After the king does what I can only understand to be stand on her face and moan for a while, we bounce off the sunflower and grab some cash. I'm not excited for how far this is going. Jumping back into the barn, after a pretty terrible balancing section, we cut down the pitchfork. He's thankful for our cutting him down and he wants to be our friend, so we jump on his back and start taking out this big hay bale. We eventually learn that it's apparently a Terminator, and we fall down below the surface with it. Great, looks like Conker's leg is all messed up now, and the Terminator is still alive. Come on, Frankie, let me ride you, and we can use his missiles against him. Wet him up and press the blow up robot button on his back, and we're good. Frankie's broken in half, but some tape helps him out and he just leaves.
I've gotta go. See ya.
Time for us to leave too, I guess. There's a pretty strict time limit here. You've got to hurry up and climb the ropes and use a context-sensitive pad to grab some more knives and cut the wires down. There's no crosshair for this section, so you've just got to focus and get good. It isn't exactly easy. Climbing up, you find the cultist you puked on earlier, but all he does is throw you high enough to grab a wad of cash. Climb up the ladder, smash down, and open up a door that leads to the easiest to get and final bundle of money in the level. Now let's head on over to that pooey smelling area. And here's where we see all that villain build up. As it turns out, there's one perfect solution to the table having only 3 legs. To replace the leg of his table with a red squirrel.
Yes. Squirrel. I've heard of them.
And that's about it for story. Conker's trying to get home while the Panther King's cronies are after Conker.
Get.
Okay.
And now we're in what I can only describe as a shit processing plant.
Well, see where like dung beetles and you roll the poo around, knows what's for.
A bit of exploration leads you to a pen with a bull. This boss fight is pretty simple. The object is to summon a cow and ram into it with the bull until it decides to drink some prune juice. Then she'll move to the middle of the room and start shitting uncontrollably. Then you ram into her and she explodes in the guts. You do this 3 times, each time getting more difficult. Much like everything else in the game, the bull doesn't control well, and it isn't really apparent that you need to kill the cows at all. Why kill them at all? They're just eating, drinking, shitting, and exploding. The whole reason you're doing this is so you can fill the room with shit so you can swim in it. After that, the bull, for whatever reason, also falls into the poop chute. And that's it. See? Easy. Now the whole place is full to the rim with poo. Head down the hole and using another magical lazy pad, Conker learns how to swim.
Confidence pill.
In the shit. After all this, you get your own ball of shit, and after a few shit-pushing puzzles, I decided to go ahead and get the abysmal water level out of the way. Some posh catfish tell us they need a dogfish disposed of so they can get their treasure and we get 10%. After being horribly posh at us,
Are you begging for food?
we swim down a hole and into one of the more terrifying parts of the game if you think about it. A cog tells us that we need to get some other cogs. So we ascend into an absolutely terrible platforming section. See, you have to balance on a plank that you can clearly just walk on without pretending it's a tightrope, while at the same time taking out bats with the contextualized flamethrower from the barn level, because Conker doesn't have to make any sense. Thing is, it's so fucking dark and far away, you can barely even tell which way you have to point the stick in order to make it across. Then you have to jump from this plank to this rope, but depth perception on this tiny tower with a locked camera makes judging the jump almost impossible, not to mention the fact that down is the same direction you have to press to make the jump. So even if you do make the jump, you can still be holding the position to slide down the rope and die. And you have to make this sequence of jumps 3 fucking times. Once you get to the top and finish some of the most nerve-wracking platforming ever, you can open the door underwater to grab the other cogs. And this is the really horrifying part. You chase them down one by one and put them in their places on the wall while they plead for help and plead you to reconsider.
Help! Help! Oh no, not that! No, anything but there! No, anything but there!
Which is incredibly uncomfortable.
Put it on, I like it like that.
Then, after you spin them around for a while, The dog's chain outside gets shorter and shorter, and the mean-tempered cog flies off.
Twatting shite!
The others, for revenge, put him on.
Mr. Big Cock!
His gay split personality doesn't seem to be bothered, though.
I don't know what his problem is. I find it rather delicious.
Well, after all of those unfortunate implications, we find ourselves leading the catfish to the safe. Opening it leads us to yet another swimming puzzle.
I'm out of here. I'm swimming with the fishes.
The gimmick behind this area is getting terribly lost in a horrible maze that doesn't make any fucking sense. In reality, what you're supposed to do is follow the blue, grab the obvious lever that's the same color as the background, then swim through a new opening that was created when the lever was pulled, an opening that looks exactly like the initial opening. Swimming through this corridor leads you to a very strange boiler room. There's a bunch of demons just hanging around, and the only way to defeat them is to drink some ale and piss on them. Then, when there's only 2 left, they enter the boiler and use it as a mech. With testicles. Well, we kill the mech and roll his balls down a hill into the... safe? What? I just went around in a big circle. I mean, sure, I was expecting to come back to the catfish eventually, but the boss was in a boiler room, which was after a water maze. What kind of safe is this? Was there just a solid wall between the safe's boiler room and the main safe room? Why did the safe have a boiler room? Where was the money prior to all of this? I chased it through the water system. How did it get back here? Did it phase through the wall? Did it go an alternate way? How much money is there anyway? $10? Fuck it, rob them.
I'll tell you what. Here's a new deal. I keep the lot. See ya.
Which works out fine because they all get systematically murdered by the dogfish anyway. No harm, no foul. Besides, the real prize is up here, 300 big ones. Hey guys, thanks for watching the review. I'm gonna have to split it up into a few parts. It's pretty long. I didn't realize how long it would take to actually run through this entire game. But yeah, in a couple of weeks, maybe 1 or 2 weeks, I'm not entirely sure, I'm gonna be putting up the second part. But in the meantime, if you wanna, be around when it's up, go ahead and subscribe and stuff. And I'm also gonna be, I'm thinking about doing some reviews of Fanime and stuff, not just Conker. I have one already planned for Banjo-Kazooie, and back on Fanime, My Jungle Book Your Year is something I was wanting to do. I think I was wanting to revisit Magnet 5, and I might actually take a critical look at Nyan Neko Sugar Girl so that everybody can stop asking about that show, because I want to talk about it. It's an interesting thing. Parody Fanime is such a weird thing. Fanime in general, but that's for when I actually make the video. But thanks again for watching. I hope you'll come around for the next Conker part, and until then, see ya.